In this lesson, we'll create the sendMessage.php file, which is responsible for validating our contact form data and transmitting the email using the SMTP protocol. So start a new document and save the file as sendmsg.php and make sure you save it in your perfect cup directory. Although we won't be storing this data into our database, we're going to start our PHP script with a database connection. This will come in handy if you ever need to store the contact form submissions into a database. This is commonly done for future reference, and that way you can track your customers. Next, we'll request the form data using the post method. And we've stored the data into 3 variables: fname, email, and message. So this is the data coming from our contact form. We've used the MySQL real escape string just to prevent any SQL injection. And so again, that adds an additional layer of security. We also need to create a variable that defines the recipient's email address. So we're going to store that in a variable called email2. This is where the form data will submit to. So you'll receive this email here. So you're going to plug in your email address. Next, we'll create a variable that stores the subject line of the contact form. So we'll just put test message. And now we'll validate the form data. So this is just done in a basic if statement, and we've done this quite a few times. If fname is greater than 50 characters, we're going to echo the error code fname long. If it's less than 2 characters, fname short. If the email is more than 50 characters, email long. If it's less than 2 characters, email short. If the email is in the incorrect format, we have the eFormat error code, and message long and message short. If validation passes, we have our else statement. If the validation passes, we can proceed to sending the message using PHP mailer. We start with a require statement that includes an essential file in the PHP mailer directory, and that's called PHP mailer autoload.php. Next, we create a new PHP mailer object and store that in a variable called mail. And this is the actual email submission code block. And I'll just go through it. So this line over here sets the PHP mailer to use the SMTP protocol. Next, we have the host. The SMTP host is your outgoing mail provider. So an example would be Gmail. If you're using Gmail as your outgoing email provider, the SMTP host is smtp.gmail.com. Now, if you're not using Gmail, this information would be available through your email service provider's website, or you can call them depending on who you're using. Next, we specify that our host requires authentication, which is almost always the case. So that's why it's set to true. We then set the username, which is your email address, and the password you use for this email account. I've left it blank, but you will need to plug that in. Next, we enable Tls Encryption for security purposes. Gmail uses port 587 to send emails via SMTP. So again, you'll need to check with your service provider to find out which port they use. Next, we set up our reply to email. And so that's stored in our email variable. The from email is stored in the email to variable. This is who the email is from, and for that we've used fname. So the person that filled out the contact form is the one sending the message. You can add additional recipients as well. So here we've just plugged in a demo email. You don't have to have additional recipients. This is optional. This line sets the email to HTML format, and that's better for styling purposes over text-based emails. Then we have the email subject, which is stored in the subject variable, the email content, the body content, which is stored in the message variable. So remember, we defined all these variables up here. All this data comes from our contact form on the contact.php page. Lastly, we have an if statement. If the email message was not sent for any reason, we're going to echo message could not be sent. Now, the only other alternative to this is that the email was sent, in which case we're going to echo the word true. This code, the success code, will then be sent to our contact.php page and interpreted using JavaScript and AJAX to alert the user of the success state. And so that's the entire script there. So I'm just going to refresh the contact.php page. Now I've plugged in our password for this email account. I'll just fill out the contact form details. And click the submit button. So here we get the success message sent, and it should appear in the inbox, and there it is. It's fairly quick. And so that's what the email looks like in the inbox. You can see the subject test message, and it's from Bob to admin@uxl.com, and then the message body. Now if we click reply, you can see that the reply address is bob@gmail.com. So everything is working the way it should be.